Hello, this is Gene. This is my fourth time to do this. Seems like somebody's trying to stop me from saying what I have to say. I don't think I'm really saying anything that's crazy, but I'm just going to say it. This morning I saw something on Twitter from a person that I follow, somebody I've helped her putting together a video that she just did recently. Somebody that I respect, and when I think of how our future is going to be, I think that women like her helps me. It gives me pause to think that we're going to do better. Although recently, from my videos, you know that I'm very black-pilled right now. I don't know exactly. I'm very pessimistic of our future. But as long as I know as young people are trying to do things like her, then maybe our future is not 100% destroyed. Who I'm talking about is Laura from Defend Europa, and I'll put down her information and the website to go to. How to just describe her? She is somebody that's part of the movement. Some people call the alt-right. She advocates for her people, white Europeans, which is basically all Europeans, real Europeans, and because she does this, she's labeled as racist, a sexist, not a sexist, but although what she had to say today might be considered sexist to some people, and an extremist, let's say. So I follow her on Twitter, and she doesn't say anything that's really alarmist at all. She basically states facts, and everybody on the ground already knows. It's like London is no longer a British city. It's just not. It may be the capital, but it's no longer a British city. So I'm going to read out what she had to say, and I responded to her, and then I'll expand on that, because just doing it on Twitter is just not enough about what I really feel about this, because I am, again, I've said 100 times on this channel, I'm not 100% alt-right. I'm not like Mark Collette. I'm not all the way over there, or Richard Spencer, or all those type of people. It's like Trump is here, civic nationalism. Mark is over here, and I'm about right here. I'm clearly closer to Mark than I am to Trump at this point, because it is what it is. And when you go down that rabbit hole, let's say, you get more and more black-pilled. And regardless of all you understand what's going on, you also understand how our people are taking this and how they're responding to it. And it's just only small percentages of them are actually responding to it in the way that we need to do. So I'll show you what she had to say. Again, this is one person that would never hurt a fly. All she does is she basically advocates for her people, our people. And because of that, she's basically a pariah. Yeah, I don't understand that they allow anybody else to do it, whether you're black or Hispanic or Asian. You have your own little groups. This is just a phenomenon that happens in Western cultures that are predominantly white, that too many of us look at this and say that that's racist in some way. But anyway, I'll read what she had to say as best as I can. You know, the issue I have to read things and stuff, and I'll respond. I'll show you what I had to say as well, and how she clarified what she had to say, because I kind of asked her that. And then I'll talk about why I said what I said. Okay? She said, I feel we need somebody among us with integrity, confidence, and good leadership skills, who's willing to stand up and take the role of leader. Somebody for us all to support. Basically, another Mosley. Okay, those of you who might come to this channel and not know what I'm talking about, Mosley was a very prominent figure, but still was racist, was labeled a racist, anti-Semitic figure. He was been compared to Hitler, the English form of Hitler. He had a big following at some point in England, but somebody that basically advocated for Europeans, English people to be English, British to be British, Irish to be Irish, that type of thing. And he was against having all these people come from, a lot of that was like Pakistan and India that came in, and he was against that. He wanted the island of England to be English or Scottish, that he felt that it needs to be that way. And people would back then can say, "Oh, what are you talking about? It will never be like what you're believing is going to be. That's going to be run over by people from other areas, and of course it has, especially in London. It's no longer a British city. I mean, everybody knows this. Here in the United States, it's a little different. Ours invasion is not really coming from Muslim areas yet, although there's something there that I want to talk about what Trump just did recently. But most of our issues from illegal immigration, it comes from South America, Central America, and Mexico, and Puerto Rico, and not Puerto Rico, but other places that are in that area. And they tax our system, even though we're the biggest producers and have so much capital in this country. We end up having to spend all of that on that type of people. And unfortunately, it really infects people that are in the lower areas of level of money, usually black people. Now, again, and white people too. I mean, per capita is black people, but clearly there's 30, 40, or 50 million white people that are at that same level that are having to compete with illegals. And the corporations or these companies will continually hire these people they don't have to really cover when it comes to healthcare and that type of stuff. That's why I was been a Democrat for my entire life. I believed in the people of it, and you have to be able to, have healthcare and all that type of stuff. And back then, when I was a supporter, they actually wanted real immigration, but now they've changed it because they know this is the way that their power is going to be maintained, that they're going to get all these people in. And at some point, we're going to have to give them amnesty. And at some point, they're going to be citizens. And the Democrats will get 80% of those people. And they know that they will rule in this country forever. And they know this. So she said that. And I responded. I said, are you talking about a new prime minister or a leader in the movement? And the reason why I said that is because May has done some really stupid shit, and she's signed off on something that is not what the people voted for a couple years ago. And she's pissed at a lot of those people, but she's also pissed off the people on the Leave side because that's not really what they want either. So all we can hope for is that there's going to be somebody else that comes in that's the leader of that party, and they'll be more pro Brexit and do what the voters actually did back then and give that to them. But it wasn't what she wanted. What Laura was talking about, a leader in the movement. She said it's at one point that after that, once we recognize whoever that leader is, that at some point maybe that person will be the prime minister at some point. So my response to that, I just basically said, okay, at some point I think that you have to have a leader. But until we come back together, all the people that it somewhat supports the idea of white advocacy, we're going to be just still withering in the wind, being labeled as racist and extremists or far right, whatever. They're going to label us that because the mainstream media has already done that. And y'all understand who runs that. Everybody understands that. I said, but we have to be better than them. I guess you can't put all that in a tweet, but basically we have to be above that. And it's still, people are still going to say that's what we are. And I think that Laura and her organization has been above that. I think that everything they report on is true and factual. There's no bias in there just because they're white. But still, they're going to be still labeled as racists. I say we need to get our house in order. We have to have a core tenet. What the alt-right is. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the alt-right because I will continually say this till I'm blue in the face, that the alt-right is not a political right movement. It is about white advocacy. You don't have to be on the right or the left. You have to do what's right for keeping what the culture of this is, and not just let it go and just be mixed out of existence or destroying the cultures that we built. So you don't have to be on the right or the left about this. It's just, again, maybe the alt-right is the word, people understand it, but it has too much that we are labeled with Nazis and all that. And again, this is, when you get on that paradigm, whether you're going to be all the way here with Mark Collette or you're with Trump, and there are hundreds of millions of people here in the worldwide. In our country, there's probably 100 million of them that are here with Trump. 62 voted for him, but still a lot of people that didn't vote believe in civic nationalism. They just haven't been taught enough about it in school. And these are people that we can pull off that will support an idea of more of a relaxed, not a relaxed, but a more of a immigrations first type of thing that says America first, that type of thing. And Europe is different, and England is a little bit different. I think there's time there for them to solve their issues. England is still 87% white. Now, they're not breeding enough. White people aren't, and eventually they're going to be the same issue that we are. But in the United States, it's going to be in my lifetime probably. If I live to be 80, there's a chance that my people will be the minority in this country. That's what that is. I don't know. Am I supposed to expect in the next 30 years that all the people are going to just follow under the Constitution and the culture will be the same? It's not. It's going to be the same culture that they came from, and it's going to be a very bad thing here. It's going to be South Africa times 1,000. So the only difference here is that most people here have guns. Now, if all these things start changing, there's a chance that we might lose that right, especially with all the leftists that are going to be in power in the next 10 years or so, because Florida's probably gone and so is Texas. But anyway, so I think she's talking about more Europe centric. Although, if you lose the United States and you lose the idea that free speech is important, and we decide to censor free speech in this country, then I think that's the end of the Western civilization as we know it. And that's where I'm going down that road about the black pill that I'm in right now. So how do we have a core tenet of what we're going to be about it, and have people talk about this? I'm sure Millennial Woes have talked about it. Colin, Richard Spencer's talked about it. I'm sure Mark has talked about this. It should be 2 or 3 bullet points that we advocate for European people, that we advocate that Western countries should be predominantly European, that we stop immigration or whatever. It has to be something. I'm not smart enough to just come out and just actually say it, but those are those things that have to be talked about. And in a lot of ways, those type of things are talked about, especially in the United States, about that, but nothing ever happens here. And it's one of those things that we still have to wake up so many people, and most people will not go past where Trump is at in the United States. So I'm sure that's the same issue that's happening in Europe and Germany or Sweden, Norway, until they get killed. And even then, how many people have their kids getting killed and they continually act like that it's not a big issue? So that the virtual being all virtuous is basically going to kill the country. So the question is there anybody that has, now when I said that she might be called sexist, she said that it has to be a man. And people have come back who actually said, what about you? And she's like, no, it has to be a man. And I think she's right here. I do. And the reason why I say this is because, I mean, she didn't really say this, but she might have said this on one of the streams she's been in. Women are not attracted to passive men. So you have these people coming from Africa, Muslim men, their testosterone, their ideology is so like I'm in charge, and women are attracted to that. They absolutely are, regardless of what they want to say. They want a man to provide for them, to be in charge. Of course, they don't want to be killed, okay? But there is still part of that women want to be subservient to men, and it's very hard for men to actually follow a female. It is, and we have enough. I mean, Mark Hamill came out the other day and said that he's ready for women to basically run all countries around the world. Basically, all women should be in charge. And I just like, have you looked at Germany? Have you looked in Sweden? Have you looked at where women have actually been in charge? As great as women are, and how they obviously have to be here to have our race to keep going on, our humanity, humans to go on. The problem that they have, and everybody has it as Achilles' heels. We all have it. The white people were too virtuous. We just are. We look at our past issues and we just continually try to say that we're sorry all the time. And that comes up with the whole white guilt team. And we're all like infected with it because of what happened. And all of it's not really true. But that's another video that could take 50,000 years to talk about. But women are very empathy. They're more empathetic. And they're the same women that sit down, refugees come here with their big signs, and then 5 minutes later they're being raped. And they'll still be out there doing it because their brain is set up that way. And Merkel's the same way. As staunch as she seems to be, she looks like she will never have sex in her life. She'll never have any kids. But still that part's in her, that she has to just help people all the time, regardless of her own people. I mean, you've seen the video with her just throwing the German flag out. I mean, how can we have a leader like that? And there might be a woman out there that could stand up and be part of it. But even that, I really believe that women who really are in this movement, like she is, or like Lauren Rose, or Tara, would still want a man to be in charge, because they have to have somebody that they can look up to, not up to us, but that they will follow, that will do anything for the cause. And yesterday I did something which I don't do all the time, but I always look for documentaries. And I try to get past, because most documentaries, and this is just my little tip to you people out there, most documentaries that we get are very liberal when it comes to it. And I'll just say one thing about this documentary, not what I talked about yesterday, but right now, like Making of the Murderer, or whatever that's on Netflix, was a big thing a couple of years ago, and everybody talked about it and how great it was. It was so wrong. It was so biased. It was only basically taking the side of Stephen Avery. And then if you actually research it, you realize what these people were doing were just the lawyers building this stuff. And it's all a bunch of bullshit. I mean, the guy clearly killed this person. And now they're having a second one come out. But a lot of people actually came out and said, you know what, this is all bullshit. Most documentaries are like that. It's rare to have something that's not unbiased. So I watched something yesterday that was produced by Newt Gingrich, who is a Republican in the United States. So he's conservative. And it was about George Washington. And I knew the man was very important. But I try to remember when I was in high school how we talked about it. We didn't talk a whole lot about him, but we did. But now they don't sit there and actually dive into what was going on at that time and what caused how we had this new country and this new idea of Western values. And nobody talks about that anymore. They're all in these places. They talk about how they're white supremacists and we should not listen to them, and we should just take down all their statues because they're all white supremacists and they hate black people. No matter that he slaved, or he frees all the slaves when he died in his will, the fact that he had a black person with him the entire time, who was one of the most important people in our history, and I'm like, well, I don't understand why this person doesn't have a movie about him. I mean, you could have things about George, but where is this one about this? This is the most important, probably the most important black person in the United States history at that point, and there's nothing about that. But anyway, we have 10,000 new movies about the Holocaust every fucking year, but when there's something that's a great role model for black people to look at, and the rest of us to say, wow, he was there with them, and George looked him at as an equal, I think this is very important shit, right? But anyway, I digress. Anyway, what Washington talked about is the cause that they were on. And when I hear about the movement, and that, I mean, the call to move, it's not really that, in my humble opinion. This is the cause for our generation. It has to be. Because if we don't stop what's going on right now, the West will never come back. There is no way that in England in 50 years, if it continues on its way, that country will be a Western nation. It will be an Islamic state. France is the same way. So is Sweden. Will be that way in Germany as well. Regardless of people like me or her that talks about this, until we have somebody that actually does it and stops it from happening, that's the other part. We as white people have this Achilles heel, especially Swedish people. But again, it's all part of us. We just say, when we hear something and we hear a critique about what we did or our ancestors did, we actually listen about this and we take it all on board, and then we want to fix it off. Whereas other cultures and stuff just say, fuck you, we're going to continually do what we're going to do. I don't care that we killed 1 million other people. We're going to continually do what we're going to do. I'm not going to say their name, but they've done this for thousands of years, and they've done the same things over and over again, and they continually do it over and over again. And we try to, quote unquote, try to make things better. And we did this in '65 with the immigration stuff, and all the leaders back then said, oh no, nothing's going to really change. Even Teddy Kennedy said that no, the demographics will not change. Do I think that he thought there was going to be like it was going to be? I don't know. I wish he would have came up before he died and said that that was the worst thing he ever did. But it's so hard to have somebody stand up and be a leader right now. So when I said, do I think that we have to have a leader right now, I said, I don't think this is the time. We have to go in to this movement or this cause like Washington talked about. This is kind of strange because we're talking about his cause was getting to be independent from England, okay? But they're still the people, these people that were here were Europeans. And people also forget that 10% of the Continental Army were black people, okay? And so when I talk and I say that this country is still, it's a white country, okay, when we founded it. But the black, African, whatever you want to call it, the slaves, the black people that were here are still part of the fabric of this country. And the problem I have is that when some of the alt-right, the people on the far right of the alt-right, get on my YouTube channel and start saying that black people should be deported and we can't ever trust them and they'll never understand how it should be in the West. And they basically, they're basically just saying they're all niggers and stuff. And there are a lot of people that consider themselves the alt-right that talk like this. Now, it's one of those weird things, and millennial owners have talked about this, that we might need them as the foot soldiers, because you have to have that type of person that's going to do what they're going to have to do in the streets if it ever comes to that. My issue has always been, I don't want to get to the streets. I want us to do what we can do through the vote, to celebrate family, to say that repopulate white people and have it a good thing. Continually say this instead of just watching the media that's going on. Try to get around that, and it's so fucking hard. And I understand that. And this is why so many people that are in the movement or understand of this issue that they're black pilled. They really believe that it's over. A lot of the people who are in the MGTOW, men going their own way, would be alt-right in a lot of ways, but they don't think there's no way out. It's like there's no way that they want to be out with women because the family courts are so bad. So they're so black-pilled when it comes to that. It's so nihilistic, but they also, some of them understand about this as well. How are they going to help us? It's one of those weird things that, okay, you understand what's going on, but you want to try to change it. It's so hard to do this. And this is, like I said, when I talk about being the cause, and obviously, can I say it's the same level as having our break from England? I think it's even bigger. This is the cause of my generation, my son's generation. And how can we get that out there? How can we make this out there? There are a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of videos out there that I watch them. And I'm like, oh yeah, the lion and all that stuff. And I'm like, we're going to do it. But then when people go to the polls and they vote, or they also call people up and they have polls that way, and you find out that more and more people, especially in the United States, that they think that talking like this is racist. When I bring up anything like this, it's racist. And as bad as everybody says that the feminists are, they said only 2% or 20% of our population. That's a lot. I wish if the alt-right was real, if we had 20% of the population, we might have some power. But what she's talking about here is almost like, I'm going to say it's a pipe dream. But you'd have to have somebody that is so charismatic that the public probably wouldn't even know what they're actually talking about. And I don't know we keep thinking there's going to be like an event that's going to make people wake up. How many is it going to be? What is it going to actually have to be? Every day you see it on TV. You see stuff that happens at schools and that have just been indoctrinated with the liberal side, and even people there who are considered conservative, and they get ostracized. These kids that had the picture where they look like they were doing the Nazi thing or the Roman salute. Well, we find out that the photographer was saying he was just saying it to wave away. And there are people with the black fist, and other people didn't do anything, and then you have this other kid that's clearly a liberal that's there. So I didn't do anything because I was uncomfortable. This happened, whatever. But if you actually ask these kids, even if they did it, they would probably 70-80% would say, no, I'm a liberal, and white people are this or that, and we're bad, and all that type of shit, because we're taught like this. So I don't know that we can actually do it non-violently at this point. Especially the United States, and I imagine it happens in England and Europe as well, we are so beholden to a certain set of people. And, we talk about that all the time, and I want to get away from that, but it's still also the truth. So when Mark talks about it, yeah, he's right, but it's like nobody's going to do anything about it. There are a couple of guys that have run for office here who talked about this, who want to talk about the Holocaust and that type of stuff, and of course they're all labeled as racist and xenophobic and all that type of shit. So, did this talk really do anything? Or I'm just babbling again? I don't know what to do is. I mean, clearly I think there's somebody smarter than me that can come up with tenets, talking about the family. It's almost like it would be a propaganda thing from Nazi Germany. It really is. And the problem is, if we do anything like that, we're going to be hearkening back to that time when there was posters showing women do this and have the young white babies and all that stuff. And it's like, that's why this whole thing about nationalism and patriotism, what Macron said and what Trump has said, and how people get online or go on these, when we're talking about nationalism, we're talking about, like what happened in last year or last century, what the Germans did. And I'm like, the Germans didn't do it. The nationalism didn't happened after. The First World War had nothing to do with nationalism. The second one happened in between that. Yeah, there was something to it because the Allies just destroyed Germany and their economic system, and they had to be that way. They had to only think about themselves. You can say what you want to say about what Hitler said after that, but the turnaround that he had in this country is something that's never happened. It's never happened in the world, and he should be lauded for that. Anybody who wants to have a conversation with the Holocaust with me, I'll be here. And we can still talk about this country. But still, all leaders have faults, including what I have here in this country. So basically, in the end, it's this: do we is a leader necessary? Yes. I think we have that to a point with Richard Spencer. Again, he has faults as well. But we need to get our act together. We need to call out those that continually say shit about killing people. That's not what we're here for. As much as Millennial Woes will say it, or everybody said that I'm nonviolent, we have to just continue out and just continue that message that we are here as an alternative to the Republicans, especially the United States, and what you have over there with the Tories and that things. Those people are not really conservatives. They're not really going to be there at the end to fight for white advocacy. They're just not going to. That's clearly, in this country, it's happening. And as it gets worse in Europe, it's going to get more and more worse. The issues you have is different, but also very similar. And it's something that when you look to the future, you just don't think there is a future. Let me know what you think below. Tell me if you have any ideas. Do you think that the alt-right is a movement that actually can be used, that can be successful to change the future that's coming our way? Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.